Good morning. This is lesson 69 in Saxon 87. More on scientific notation. It is an extremely short lesson today. So, when we write a number in scientific notation, right, we're talking about something that looks like this. 4.6 times 10 to the third, right? That's scientific notation. Standard notation for this would be, we'd go 4.6 and then it's to the third power, so we would, let's put some zeros behind it and move it. So we would move it 3 times to the right. 1, 2, 3. So the number in standard form or standard notation would be 4,600. Okay, so how do we decide where we put the decimal point in scientific notation? Jack, this will answer your question that you asked a couple weeks ago about that. So in scientific notation, let's say you have something like this. 4,600 times 10 to the 5th. So when we write a number in scientific notation, we usually put the decimal point just to the right of the first digit that is not 0. So what's the first number here? It's 4. So we know we would put the decimal point just to the right of the first number that's not 0. So that's how we would decide. So for this type of problem, we're going to use 2 steps. So first, we write, 4,600 in scientific notation in place of 4,600. So that would be that 4.6 times 10 to the third. Because remember, if we're putting the decimal point just to the right of the very first number that is not 0, 1, 2, 3. We've moved it over 3 times. So 10.6 times 10 to the third times 10 to the 5th. So the first step is that we change this number to scientific notation. I'm going to abbreviate it by SN. So we change that number to scientific notation, and then we look at what power went with it. So we've changed it to scientific notation, and now we're getting ready to add the powers. So remember, adding powers is not very difficult. It's just basic addition. So 3 plus 5 would be 8, right? So we'd have 4.6 times 10 to the 8th power. So that's the 2-step way that you solve problems that look like this, where it has a number that hasn't been put into scientific notation times an exponent. You first write that number in scientific notation, and then add the exponents together to get what your final exponents will be. So let's try another one, this time in the negatives. Well, power to the negative is what I should say. Alright, so 25 times 10 to the negative 5th. So let's look at 25 here. 25 is not in scientific notation, right? So what are we going to do? Remember that you want to put the decimal point to the right of the first number that is not 0. So what's the first number that is not 0 here? It is 2. So we want to put the decimal point just to the right of that. So we're going to end up with 2.5. And remember, we just moved that decimal point once. Now, here's the important thing. So we just moved it once. 2.5 times 10 to the first power times 10 to the negative 5 power. So this is where that algebraic addition comes in, because we have 1 plus negative 5. Well, really, if we have 1 plus negative 5, it's really just 1, it's just 1 minus 5. So we would get 2.5 times 10 to the negative 4th power. And that would be our answer. Okay, we're going to head to the next page. Example 2. Write 0.25 times 10 to the fourth in scientific notation. Now, for this one, remember that the reason we're going to change this is because the decimal point is not, in this situation, to the right of the first number that is not 0. So, we would move it over once here. And since we're moving it to the right, okay, we're going to use our math sense here and say, okay, that's going to be -1 in our exponents. So we have 2.5 times 10 to the negative first power times 10 to the fourth. Now remember, it's -1 plus 4. Well, what's that going to be? 2.5 times 10 to the positive third power. So again, just to recap, the reason why we changed this by moving the decimal point over is because the decimal point was not to the right of the first number that is not 0. Okay, I'd like you to practice your skills here and check your answers in the solution manual. I would like you to do A, B, and D. A, B, D. Once you're done, check your answers in the solution manual and let me know how you did.